Hey there, everyone. I recently put together a list of a bunch of different survival items and supplies that we might need coming up before November. In my lifetime, I can't remember a time where there's been so much sort of on the table and so many possibilities that could happen before November, could happen, in November or shortly after. It could be something that is large scale, could be something that is slow rolling and continues on for a long time. So what I wanted to do was put together a list of supplies, and this turned into between 50 and 100 different supplies. But I wanted to put a list of these supplies together that truly are important in preparedness. These aren't the specialized supplies and the ones that make the headlines, right? This list I wanted to put together was the basics of everything that you will need. I've talked about it before, how it's usually the small things that derail a perfect plan, and that's exactly what this list is. I'm going to try to get through as many of these as I possibly can in this video, but I know I'm not going to be able to go through 100 of these unless I want to do an hour and a half video. So I put together a PDF. It's a 3-page PDF that's got all the stuff and more that I'm going to talk about today. There's also an article that I will leave a link to below over at the online store, mysurvivalfoods.com, that will go through a little bit more detail with all of this stuff. But with that checklist, you can just print that off. It's 3 pages. Check mark the ones that you've already gotten. A lot of them you probably already have, and make a list of the things that you need. But if you are just starting out in preparedness or trying to refine your preparedness plan, it's a perfect list to just make sure, sort of take the overwhelm and the confusion out of preparedness and make sure you've got all the little things that kind of get confusing and make prepping confusing. You've got all those taken care of. So let's go ahead and just go through this list. Like I said, I'm going to cover quite a bit, so make sure and download that PDF. But I want to start with food and water. These are the basis of a good preparedness plan. These are the things we need every day. So with food, I've got a few things on this list. You've got the rice, the pasta, the flour, the prepper favorites, right? The 5-gallon bucket foods, the dried beans, the lentils, things that will store for a very long time. With these, you've got to know how to actually prepare those and have the right supplies to prepare those as well. Then you've got the canned foods, the soups, the full meals, the vegetables, the fruits, the meats is a very important one. Having a balanced diet is really important in a survival situation. So you want to have protein and fats and all the things that you're going to need, the vitamins and minerals. And then you've got the salt, sugar, and all the other spices. And spices sometimes get forgotten about, but they are important because they can take just a bland meal that is, going to be just fine in a survival situation and a little bit more interesting. Then you got things like powdered milk, coffee. Make sure you have, if you're a coffee drinker, make sure you have a bunch of extra coffee. We've got a few extra cans. And make sure you have a French press or a percolator to go along with that, just in case the power's out. But coffee is one of those things. It's the vices, coffee, cigarettes, anything, the alcohol, those vices are an absolute necessity just to maintain your sanity. And then you've got the buckets of long-term food. And I sell legacy food products over at mysurvivalfoods.com. And the great thing about long-term food storage is you can really bulk up your food storage really quickly. So if you've got a month's worth of food, you buy a few of these buckets and all of a sudden you've got 3 months worth of food. They're easy to store. You can throw them in a closet, stackable buckets, and they have a 25-year shelf life. So while I don't suggest that all of your entire food storage is these long-term buckets, they're really high in salt. They don't have all the vitamins and minerals that you need, and it's not something you eat on a daily basis right now. But they really are good to bulk up your food storage really quickly. But long-term food storage buckets are definitely something to think about, even if it's just a 72-hour kit or a few months. And with that, you want to store some extra vitamins and supplements as well, because our diets are going to change and we may not be getting the vitamins and minerals that we usually get. And also, don't forget supplies for your pets. Make sure you have some extra dog food, cat food, whatever you need for your animals. We've got horses and we've got chickens here, which make it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more quantity, but make sure you have your pets taken care of as well. And also make sure you have seeds. Seeds are a great way. Granted, it's going to take some time to grow these things, but seeds are a great way of supplementing your food supply. So if you do see some writing on the wall, the things are getting ready to go bad, you could plant some seeds and hopefully supplement your food supply. And also, sort of along the same lines, is having canning jars, Mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, learning about taking these foods that you get from the grocery store and repackaging them to make them longer term. So if you're making soups and stews, you learn the canning process. An all-American canner is great to have. Learn about all of these and then get the supplies that you need to go with them. Like I said, the canning jars, the Mylar bags, and the oxygen absorbers. And also with cooking, you want to make sure you have the cooking options to get all of this stuff done and the water that you're going to need. So if you have those dried beans, if you have the flour, you're going to need to be able to make those. So you need to know the recipes and you need to have the options to cook those and have the options that are indoor and outdoor. I've done a video just recently about indoor cooking options and emergency cooking options that you can use. And when it comes to water, I think we need to have a good portable water filter. A lot of us already have these, 1 or 2 in our bug out bags and around the house. But you also need to have a good quality water filter, a countertop water filter, something that's going to get more than just the Giardia and Cryptosporidium, something that will get a lot of the other contaminants in the water. And with that, you want water purification tablets. There's a few different kinds. MicroPure is a really good brand. And also some sort of alternative water, whether it's a water catchment system or you've just scouted out your area, you know where you can go get water if the water that you have runs out. And also have the water storage containers. I suggest 2 gallons of water per person per day, but sometimes you just can't store that much. So having those alternative methods is something that you're going to want to do. And make sure you have dirty water containers as well. So if you do need to go collect that water, you're not using contaminated buckets. Next, let's move on to power and light. You've got the main thing I think here, and this is a tough one for a lot of people, but you'd want a conventional generator, a solar generator, something that is going to power a lot of these larger appliances. This is one you may want to put on your wish list, but it is something that is going to be useful in a number of different situations. Along with that, when you're talking about power and light, you've got matches, you've got lighters, you've got candles, flashlights or lanterns, all of those different things that even if it's just a simple power outage, you've got those supplies and you're ready to go. I would even say put together a lights out kit. I've got a video on a lights out kit that I did where it's just a toolbox where you put everything in it. And if you're not home, somebody grabs that kit and it's got the flashlights, it's got extension cords, it's got all the things that they would need. Also, make sure you have plenty of wood to burn. And even if you don't have a fireplace, there are a lot of different options, but make sure that you have processed firewood, not trees that you can cut down, even if it's just going to the store and buying a bundle of firewood here and there. But that is going to be something that you stock up as much as you possibly can, and it'll be very useful. And with firewood, you've got the fuel storage, and this is not just for your vehicles. This is for everything that you're going to cook with. So this could be propane, butane, gas, just a bunch of different things that you're going to need, and the firewood for cooking in these situations. So it's not only important to have those supplies to make the meals, you got to have the fuel to have those work as well. Sterno is another one. And when it comes to gasoline in your automobile, make sure you never go below a half a tank. Always think of your fuel tank. Half a tank is empty because you just never know when you're going to need that. And the last thing you want to do is be running on empty when an emergency happens. All right, let's move on to medical here. And with this, you're going to need a few different first aid kits. I would suggest a large emergency medical kit that you would keep in your home that's got just about everything that you might need in it. You've got these smaller first aid kits that could be in your vehicles, your bug out bags and things like that, that wouldn't have everything but the kitchen sink in them, but will be useful in vehicles and situations that you might run into. Make sure you have a trauma kit as well for those larger injuries and also the education to go along with those. And also you want to think about your pets as well. Lisa's got a huge medical kit for her horses, and we've got, supplies for the chickens and the pet and the dogs and things like that. But think about your pets as well, because you may not be able to go to the vet. So being able to do some of these things at home may be really important. And you've also got the personal protective equipment, the masks, the gloves, the gowns, all of those, plastic sheeting for the windows in case it's some sort of pandemic situation. You want to make sure and have all of those as well. And when it comes to medications, you want a number of different over-the-counter medications, whether they're antidiarrheals, cold medicines, and things like that. You want to have some of those stockpiled. And also, if you're on prescription medications, you want to think about how you're going to handle those as well. Jace Medical is one that comes to mind, where you can get you can extend your prescription, or you can just talk to your doctor and see if there's anything that they can do. But think about those as well, how you can extend that and have as much as you'll need. Insulin needs refrigeration, so you'll need to figure out how to handle that situation also. All right, so let's move on to heating and cooling. And this is an important one, regardless whether you're talking about a small power outage or something much larger. But you're going to want to have extra blankets stored. We've got a couple of bins they're full of blankets, extra sleeping bags, camping supplies, fans in your house. If you live in a hot climate, it's not always just about the cold. It could be the middle of summer as well, and it's above 100 degrees. You want to figure out how you're going to tackle that situation. You've got tarps that if windows break, or there's, if you need to reinforce different things, tarps and plastic sheeting to keep those windows covered, insulate your home. Lots of warm socks and warm clothes, long underwear, denim jeans. Again, just like we store the blankets, we've got a couple of bins with just old clothing that we have that we can use in a situation like that. So keeping cool, keeping warm, those are super important, and there's a lot of things that we need to think about with that. And then you've got self-defense, which a number of different scenarios could present themselves where this is important. You've got the firearms and the ammunition, and you've got less than lethal options that you can think about as well. You've got operational security and situational awareness that might help you stay out of those situations. And your home security and fortifications, that's important as well. Whether you're talking about 3-inch screws in your door jambs, they've got door armor, that way people can't bust through your door. Reinforcing your windows. There's film you can put on your windows. Making your house look less like a target than, say, the neighbors is another thing that you can do. But make sure and think about all of these, because you never know when a civil unrest situation or something could present itself in your neighborhood, and you've got to be ready for that. So defense, self-defense, personal self-defense is important as well. All of these things are, I think, something that everyone should be thinking about, regardless what the disaster scenario is that we have in our minds. Self-defense, home defense, and a way to keep everything that we've stockpiled and all of our supplies safe is really important. Next, I've got some hygiene stuff, and I suppose this could go along with first aid, but you've got making sure you have lots of toilet paper, making sure you have extra soaps and shampoos, toothpastes, and even razors. Razors aren't that life-saving thing or anything, but it could be just that sense of normalcy, right? You just need to shave and feel normal. Brushing your teeth is important, because a toothache in a SHTF or disaster situation, that is that debilitating pain that you're not going to want to have to go through. So making sure you stay up on your oral hygiene and all of that is really important. You've got bottles of bleach and trash bags and paper plates and waste disposal, things like that you need to think about with hygiene as well, because the last thing you want to do in any sort of disaster situation is get sick, or somebody in your family get sick, and then you've got to deal with that alongside everything else that's going on. Next, I've got tools, and there are separate types. There's survival tools, and then there's just household tools, right? The hammers, the axes, the shovels, the gardening tools, work gloves, things like that you just have laying around the house. The odds are a lot of these you already have, and they're put away. So you can take that checklist that I've got that you can download and just check those off, and you're good to go. But all of these, you just never know what types of situations, just like everyday life. You never know in what type of situations you're going to need those. And it's always nice and handy to have one, especially if the Home Depot or something is closed or shut down and you're not going to be able to go get those. It's always good to have these, the screwdrivers, the drill sets, the socket sets, the hand tools. All of these things are really important just to have for whatever may happen. And you've also got the things that aren't necessarily the tools, but they work with the tools, like the tapes, the cordage. Duct tape can be used for everything. Plastic sheeting, I've mentioned a couple of times. Even packing tape, paracord, twine, jute twine is great. We get bales of hay and we save all the baling twine that we get in big bags. Who knows if we'll ever need them, but we've got it all. But all of those things that will work in conjunction with these tools are important as well. And then you've got the survival tools, the everyday carry type items, the multi-tools, the fixed blade knife, the pocket knives, all of these different tools for maybe getting fire started and things like that. All of these the survival tools that us preppers talk about all the time, it's important to think about all of those as well. And if you put together a bug out bag, the odds are you'll have a pretty good list of what those are. Now, a couple of things that aren't necessarily single supplies, but are super important is make sure you have bug out bags or go bags for every single member of your family. Even if they are not into preparedness and you just throw it in their car, in their trunk, it's a micro preparedness kit that in the case of an emergency that they can get to. And also, as far as car kits go, make sure every member of the family's cars are set up for even just a flat tire or something like that. So they have the emergency roadside kits, they have the medical kits, they have supplies in their car to handle these. With our teenagers, we put these kits together for them, put it in a little box, and just put it in their trunk. And they didn't really even think about it. And on a couple occasions, they've actually had to dig into it. So make sure that your cars are set up as well. The average person travels a lot, so making sure our cars are set up is really important. And also make sure you have a substantial amount of emergency cash. And this is different for everyone, however much you can have. Yes, the value of the dollar is shrinking on a daily basis, but in a disaster or an emergency, in a grid down situation where ATMs and things like that may be down, you might not be able to get money from the bank. You're going to want to have cash on hand. So make sure you have as much as you possibly can, some in your wallet. I'd suggest $100 in small bills in your wallet, and then even more than that in a safe in your home or something like that. And then also think of preparedness in a time frame. As you're putting together your preparedness plan, don't think about I need to get food and then I got my water set up, then I'll get my first aid set up. Get it all taken care of at the same time. So you're preparing for a week, you're preparing for a month, you're preparing for 3 months, 6 months, a year. Think about it as a time frame and have a well-rounded preparedness plan. So a lot of stuff on this list, and there's, like I said, I made this PDF because there's a lot more, and the article, and I'll probably be adding to this in the future as well. But these are just the basic supplies, the supplies that sort of it encompass every situation that you can think of, and the important ones just to have, and then you can sort of customize out from there. I've got a video of a few supplies that I think are game changers in preparedness that really make certain things a whole lot easier, from a inverter generator to an all-American sun oven, things like that, that once you get all these basics taken care of, then you can build out and work on those. Have a look at this video if you want to check those out. But with that, I am done here today. Make sure and download that PDF. Take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you all later.